Good morning, baby dolls, and welcome back. So today, we're going to be talking about the one and only Demogorgon herself, naked and laughing. So I've been wanting to talk about Now forever, and that's kind of part of the reason I made this channel, because she's my favorite dumpster fire to watch, and baby girl, she burns so brightly. I have also been lucky enough to be able to talk a little bit with her ex-mod lexicon. If you end up seeing this, hi baby girl, what's up? Thanks for stopping by. I also am currently followed by her ex-boyfriend, FTW Blue God. Anthony, if you're listening to this video, please fucking listen to me. I'm a dumb bitch, and it is what it is, but I know what the fuck I'm talking about, and I only want to see you do better, so please listen to me. Stop with the shit and listen to a bitch. Anyway, I can't remember the dude's name, but this one guy a few months ago or some shit made a video about Now from like a psychologist standpoint, and I thought that video was neat. If I can remember what the fuck it's called, I'll link it in the description. But, I thought I'd do something kind of similar, but from the perspective of a BPD girly myself, because, hi, I have BPD and bipolar type 2. Yay, it's fucking great. But anyway, since Now is definitely somewhere in the cluster B spectrum, I thought I'd talk about that from I guess, a more experienced in that particular personality type of way. So we're gonna do that, and I guess before we get into all that, I'll talk about, I guess, how I fell down the Now rabbit hole in the first place, and go from there. So, also for sake of, like, simplicity and stuff, when I talk about Now, that's our girl Jessica Ann Boyle. And when I talk about Jessica, I'm talking about Jessica Messica, who rules Now's pathetic life for all eternity, baby doll. And yeah, so I used to watch Chris Chan because, of course, it fucking has to start with Chris Chan. And I'd followed them for fucking years. When my wife and I first met, like fucking 11 years ago, one of the things we talked about as we were getting to know each other was Chris Chan, and we watched, bitch, I want to say it was the fucking, Liquid Chris saga or some shit. And so I watched them, and I kind of followed fucking King Cobra JFS because his culinary abortions intrigue the shit out of me. So I'd watch him, but I never really got too big into Cobes, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. But so after the arrest happened, I ended up moving on to the Goblin. I found Cyrax because of the fucking fake record deal shit, and I thought that shit was so fucking funny. I followed Cyrax ever since, and I've been watching him for, God, almost 5 fucking years now. And the insanity I have seen happen with him has been fucking incredible. But there was a little crossover event with Goral World, got a while ago. I'm sure the people who were there remember it better than I do, because time is a fucking blur to me, but it was, God, maybe last year, maybe a few months ago, I don't fucking remember. But, so, Foodie Beauty, in her infinite fucking wisdom, decided that it would be a good idea to defend Cyrax and tell people to leave him alone, and he's not the horrible PDF file we say he is, and, well, she touched the poo, and that's against the rules. So she got to experience what happens when you do that. And I don't think Chantal had a good time, but I did. I found it interesting to see what some of the like Girl World creators were saying about her, and now like I follow FFG and fucking like garlic bread and shit. I enjoy Chantal too. She's another one of my favorite train wrecks, and is the only person that's more delusional than Now or Cyrax. So, yeah, she's pretty neat too. I'll probably talk about Chantal one day. Fucking fuck it. But for now, I guess getting back on track a little bit, I stuck around in Gore World and I found Jessica Messica. And I love her to death. Jessica Messica's great. Her fucking laugh is infectious, bitch. I love it. She'll have me on the fucking floor gasping for breath. She is fucking hilarious. You definitely need to check her out. I guess I might as well plug some shit since we're talking about it. But, yeah, I'm not going to be putting Now clips on here, at least for now. There's way better channels for that. If you want to have a fun live experience with some fun people, check out either Kakra TV or Jessica Messica. If you want archives and the occasional live while Now's running her mouth, but you don't want a raw dog Now, there's, Liquid HRH / not the HRH. I don't know what channel they're currently fucking with. And a channel called The Archive. I'll link all these in the fucking description too. But, yeah, anyway, so I found Jessica Messica and I stuck around in her community because there's a lot of great people there. I love hanging out in her chats. She's a great person. And so, fast forwarding a bit, our girl Now decided she wanted to date fucking King Cobra JFS after finding him on Kiwi Farms. And, well, the rest is kind of history. And now is the giant train wreck everybody and their fucking mom knows about, yelling behind Walmart, fucking, rah, 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 fucking, fuck you, Demogorgon, gutter slut, go suck your dad's dick. Sorry. But anyway, so, for those of you who aren't familiar with Now, she, violently exhibits cluster B personality traits. So, I guess we'll get to that. I even took me some notes and shit, bitch, because fucking there's a lot to talk about. And I would also, I guess, like to talk about a few important terms and shit. One I would like to bring up is, the favorite person concept. Part of why my mental health is as good as it is, and I keep my shit together, is because I happen to marry my favorite person. Borderlines tend to kind of, like, really quickly bond with people, usually through traumatic experiences, and our relationships tend to start very quickly and very passionately, and it usually will be with your FP. They're kind of like, not necessarily the most important person in your life, but their opinion of you and their continued, like, existence in your life is extremely important. And, like, it's kind of a toxic thing usually, and I don't really like to admit that part, but it's usually kind of very obsessive-y and can sometimes go poorly. And I guess the other thing I want to talk about is splitting. Splitting is when borderline people kind of like, I guess, go back and forth between the whole, like, idealization and de-idealization of either your favorite person or fuck anybody else in your life, really. And it usually will come from either a perceived abandonment. We have a lot of time, or a lot of difficulty, like, processing or identifying emotions correctly. So sometimes things that are a lot more innocent from the offending party tend to still elicit a very volatile, often kind of blown out of proportion reaction from the borderline person. And it's usually a spur of the moment thing. You go from, like, loving the person to, like, instantly hating them. Usually because you feel like it's easier to kind of cause the problem first. Because if you make the person mad and they leave, then they didn't abandon you. Because that's kind of a big thing. And I guess we'll go into all the DSM-5 shit now. So to be diagnosed with borderline, at least, you need to have 5 or more of these diagnostic criteria to be diagnosed and shit. I guess the first one we'll start, since we talked about it a little bit, is the abandonment reaction. Borderlines tend to have a very volatile relationship with the idea of being abandoned by people, and will frantically and oftentimes very intensely go out of our way to make sure that our FP or whoever the fuck doesn't abandon us, or at least that we perceive that they're going to abandon us. You can see this a lot now when, like, things would be going alright with her and Josh, and then she would decide to kind of throw some sticks in the spoke because he didn't pay attention to her right, or he didn't give her the correct reaction to whatever the fuck she was doing. So, because she was afraid of him abandoning her, she would usually act out in a rather crazy way towards him. And another criteria, and something I just talked about as well, is the idealization and devaluation of relationships and the pattern of instability that causes. Like I was saying with splitting, you go from, like, I love you, you're the best thing ever, to fuck you, I hate you, you're the worst person I have ever met, almost instantaneously. A good example of that with our girl was when she was trying to live stream fights between her and Josh, so people would, like, I guess she thought people would, like, side with her if they heard how the fight went. And it was the breakup fight where she was super offended by him saying that she's a worse alcoholic than him, which objectively is correct, and we'll get more to her drinking here in a little bit. But fucking, like, I'm trying to remember, there's something about portion size, and she was trying to explain to him that, and he wasn't having it, and so she just fucking started screaming, and he was like, fine, fuck it, I'm done. And so that's how they broke up, even though they're still both kind of leading each other on and shit, but it is what it is, tubes. The next thing I would like to talk about is an unstable identity and, like, not only mirroring, which, like, I'm sure y'all have noticed when Now was dating Anthony, she listened to the music he listened to and tried to emulate his personality to the best of her ability. And now she's doing that again with Cobes, taking his music and his more, like, I guess, Timu goth vibe, and, like, one thing that can happen that's a more extreme response to the unstable identity, which we're seeing a lot with now, is when you go from, like, the needy supplicant to, like, the righteous avenger archetype. Now, we'll go from, like, crying and intensely missing Josh and, oh, I love you so much, blah, 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 to, like, splitting and making some pretty outlandish and horrific, if true, accusations. And usually when this occurs, a lot of those accusations are indeed false. I don't know either way, and I'm not trying to say this did or didn't happen. It just is what it is. And so it's kind of safe to assume that a lot of the allegations she's making are indeed false, but that isn't stopping her from making them, but then also going back to pining for him immediately after making the accusations about him being whatever. I'm not even going to get into that one. It's not my fucking dog. It's not my fight. I don't fucking care. I guess the next thing we'll go into is impulsivity in two specific areas or more. They are, like, impulsive, reckless spending, which she does, engaging in unsafe, adult practices, which she does, often involving a lack of birth control or any sort of protection. Substance abuse. What do I need to say about that one there? Holy shit. Reckless driving. I don't know much about her driving, but I couldn't imagine it being, like, good. And, food relationship and ED issues, which is another thing that I don't really want to touch on this one much, but she has some issues with those. So, yeah. And, another, I guess, important thing is that 95% of women with borderline personality disorder will exhibit, self-damaging behaviors for emotional relief. And again, I'm not going to speculate on this. I don't know if Nell does other things in that category, but I definitely would like to point out that her alcoholism definitely is a form of self-damaging activity, and it has been extremely detrimental to her life and her quality of living, as well as every relationship she has been involved in. So that's kind of a big issue. The fifth one is, trying to make this YouTube appropriate, recurrent ideations of a self-redacty nature, or making threats to do these things, or to make threats to do less serious but still harmful things. And we saw her do that recently with her mom when she asked her to go to the store. So I guess the next one we'll go with is the sixth criteria, a constant sense of emptiness. And as a borderline myself, it is like a void, a deep, dark abyss of emptiness within that is just all consuming. And no matter what you do, no matter how many things you try to like fill that void with, it's always there. It never leaves, and it never really gets any easier to deal with. And I can definitely notice that Nell struggles with that. She has no sense of purpose or self identity. She has no ability to find joy or happiness in anything. And she is so incredibly dependent on other people for her own sense of self worth or happiness that, like, if she doesn't have someone there, she doesn't have self worth. I guess, let's see, going back to my little list here. The next thing is affective instability due to reactivity of mood, usually lasting hours to a few days. It's not kind of like with bipolar when you go from like a manic cycle to a depressive cycle, and like those things can last weeks or longer. It's usually a shorter thing, but like again, like with her fights she recorded with Josh or the fights she has with her mother, now cannot like deal with her emotions appropriately, and every time she is required to, it inevitably will turn into a fight because she doesn't know how to like process or deal with her emotions. So they're all way too big, and they're all just way too much for her to deal with, so she tends to lash out in anger, and that's the next thing we're going to talk about. Inappropriate, intense anger or displays of violence, aggression, or harm towards other people. And I have some issues with that myself. Like, I have the borderline rage, and it, like the emptiness, is a deep black abyss within that never goes away. And it's just kind of there, always festering beneath the surface, and I have to try really fucking hard not to let that get the best of me, because sometimes even the slightest little inconvenience, I'm ready to fucking lose my shit and start fucking acting like now. And you really have to kind of always be constantly aware of that anger, and she does not even remotely try to contain it. Again, like with all the fights she recorded with Joshy, all the fights she has with her parents, all the horrible, horrible things she says, like the slightest aggravating circumstance will elicit the most toxic, insane, vile response from her that you could ever hope to get from a person. It's fucking wild, bitch. I guess the ninth and last thing to talk about is transient stress-related paranoid ideation or severe dissociative symptoms. Yeah, Now's paranoid as fuck all the time. It has ruined almost every single relationship she's had, both with other people, like romantically, but also with her friends, because she always mistrusts them and treats them poorly until they end up running to like Jessica Messica or something and telling about all the horrible things she said, did, or talked about. Because, I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy type thing. She pushes these people towards her enemies and then acts fucking surprised when they side with their enemies, because, spoiler alert, Jessica Messica is actually fucking nice. That goes a long way now. a long fucking way. And yeah, so that's our girl. Like I said, I'm definitely going to be talking a lot more about her and maybe some other eccentric characters too, but mostly now really she really earned that Rookie of the Year award she got from Too High for Stupid. She deserves it fully. And so with that being said, um really not sure what I'm gonna do next. Maybe some like mental health shit, maybe some more now shit. I'll figure it out when I do. Until then, I love you guys lots, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day, baby dolls.